And as I said, this session is being recorded. Delighted to welcome everybody to it. I'm really delighted to be able to introduce TJ. TJ is well, I'll leave you to introduce yourself, TJ. Do you tell everybody what you're going to be talking about today and what you do and where you're from, TJ? I'd appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Yes, my name is TJ Kuhny. I am the Vice President of Product Marketing at Realize It. And this whole topic today is really bringing, something that I think a few of us are thinking about with AI and what it can do with learning. And I'm really going to bring it into the world of adaptive learning because there's so much there that's really giving you power to really take advantage of AI in your world without necessarily having to become experts in AI yourself. So, Don Taylor had a webinar last month and asked questions about AI and L&D. And will all the talk turn into action this year? And in this webinar, I'm proposing what I think is a practical path to action that's going to make it possible for you to amplify your impact in this year in 2024 by really applying AI and adaptive learning to your strategy. And my suggestion is that AI-powered adaptive learning has really enabled companies that I'll talk about to ramp up their AI focus with speed and without needing to be those experts. And you'll see it's not always the same approach for everyone, but having the right tools and AI-powered adaptive engine really, I think it makes it a great fit for when you have to train your most important skills and roles and the things that run your business every day. And you really need to make sure they know how to do the job. So I'll share 4 variations on a theme of compliance training, on-the-job training, onboarding, and even reinforcement. So that's what we'll talk about. I hope that's what you're here for, and look forward to all of your input and questions as we go. So to kick things off, I decided to bring up the findings from the AI in L&D report that Don did, in his webinar. And I attended that webinar and I read his report and I found this chart for myself particularly interesting as part of that webinar. And what I took from it is that L&D is expecting to perhaps start using AI in ways that are going to add greater efficiency in creating content and in getting work done in general. And then sort of the second group that I see here is it's boxed in blue is more around improving efficiency and performance of the end learner. And what I'll touch on today is this interesting idea of using AI to personalize and adapt learning. And my take on that is that it's like an anchor that can really be part of your learning strategy that is a catalyst for many of these benefits in the list. And that's what we'll talk through. So as we get started, it would be just wonderful to hear from you when you see this list of benefits. People are talking about, where could AI lead us? I'm interested to know if you're already baking AI into your strategy and how you plan to start leveraging it in learning.
So we have this big box has opened up underneath the question for you. What I'm really keen to find out is what your plans are for AI this year. We've heard lots of people talking about it for the last 12 months. It feels like there's movement and people are moving things on. So in that space below, I can see some people are writing already. And there's always a flurry of people writing and typing. So please tell us, how are you planning on incorporating it into your strategy this year? Have you already incorporated it into your strategy this year?
Yeah.
I know I'm having lots of conversations with people about it right now. Everybody wants to know about it. Let's have a look. Give people a moment to type. It's always the same with these things, TJ. People start typing, and we get beautiful erudite responses, and then all that done, they will start coming through. So let's have a look here. So, sign a one-person team in L&D. I need to be able to efficiently create content quickly. So looking at how AI can do that, content creation, absolutely. Becky, it's not working for the full screen. Sorry about that, Becky. Working with Ben says, looking at developing AI trainers. ChatGPT Bing has been an initial entry point and looking for the next step. I think that's really common, Evan. I mean, what do you think, TJ? Is that common? People using these tools as a starter?
Oh yeah, and experimenting, and the whole content generation, as it showed in Don's survey, was what most people are really starting with, and really, how do they do more with what they have.
Hmm.
And that's part of my question. Is it's that's certainly an interesting starting point, but is it enough, and what else can we do? So that's what we'll
Hmm.
explore. Yeah.
Hmm. I see Ellie said she's tried in different use cases. I'd love to know what some of those use cases are, Ellie, or are you just going to sit and capture what everybody else has had? Because I'm loving some of the comments here. Kerry,
Yeah.
using it for some extent for communications, promote L&D offerings. One encourage wide use by the team. Is that something you've seen with it, TJ?
To say that one again. The
Using it with communications, promoting L&D.
I have not seen that one as much, but that sounds interesting. I mean, certainly, marketing L&D is important,
Mm.
and how you can improve your communications outward so that the company knows what's coming and what they can do. That's a great use case. I like that
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah,
James has got leadership coach, mentor in your pocket.
yeah, yeah. The whole always helping you with giving you
Yeah.
ideas what to do. That idea generator, I think, is key, and not using it as the answer, but a help to your answer. Using it as
Mm.
that sort of yeah, co-pilot, I think, is the term you'll hear. So this is great.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Some really interesting stuff coming through here. Oh, I was about to close the window down and then more come through.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for these. These are great.
These are great.
Wonderful.
I will be closing that window down shortly. If you want to continue those, please put them into the other general chat.
Yeah.
Um, let's have a look. Improving user experience, as Michael at the end there. So let's come
Yeah.
back to our presentation slide. Want to carry on with those? Then please do continue
Yeah.
within the chat box there. And Ellie, if you want to tell us what those other different use cases are, then please do.
Yeah.
TJ,
That
back
would
to
be
you.
great. All right. Thank you for all that. And we'll keep going here. Those are great ideas. And so it's giving you a lot to think about clearly in training and learning development. You feel that, in a sense, it's almost like a pressure. Everyone, as I'm hearing, you're getting input from all sides. You want to transform and give them something right now that works. And even at the board level all the way down, they all want to know how AI is going to help the business. And you can, I don't think many of you out there are like this, putting your head in the sand like an ostrich, or there are these ideas of different experiments you can try. And one of the things you'll see at the end, there's an ebook that you can download that really gives a good framework for taking a structured approach to your technology and AI, that I think provides good guidance. But in this webinar, I'm going to try and be a bit more pragmatic and show you how adaptive learning, adding that into your strategy, is going to help you achieve a number of the things, without necessarily feeling like you have random experiments going on, and really giving you a way to build from a real strong base here. You won't really feel like a research lab, because a lot of the technology has already been built around AI to help you do these things. So we'll keep rolling here. And as the title says in the webinar, this is about AI powered adaptive learning for business alignment and L&D efficiency. So this is a list of benefits that are all possible, in which I think any CEO or CFO or business leader are going to be interested in. So by figuring out how to pivot your approach from what I'm saying, more of a traditional one size fits all learning, you'll quickly be on the path to saving time for learners and all your stakeholders. So we'll talk about even going beyond just the learner benefits, but everyone who's involved in learning. Of course, getting learners more engaged, one that's tailored to them, and improving the quality of assurance that's going to lead to both better performance and lower risk. And you'll actually be laying the foundation to be more agile in your work. So when things change, learning is more nimble, and we'll see how that works here. So we'll talk about examples of most of these, but I'm also going to connect you to some more examples at the end of the webinar if you are interested. So let's make sure we're level set on what I'm talking about with adaptive learning. It's a term that's been around for a long time, but its time really is now with the surge in AI and the energy around AI in business. So if we start at the top of this circle here and go around, adaptive learning is learning that is customized, tailored, and optimized to the unique needs of every individual. And by observing and making decisions, so having either the human or the system itself observing what's happening and making a decision, and then what should be best for the individual learner, And then the system is actually going to continue calibrating and continue to refine. So it's not just here's a change. It's going to continue to understand what's going on and continue to refine and suggest the next best step for the person who's learning. And it's using, as you see on the left side, both human and artificial intelligence. So I feel that's an important point. It should never be a black box. Instead, it should feel like, as I mentioned, a co-pilot where the learner remains in control and the human stakeholders can benefit from all these insights, but they're not forced to be beholden to them. The human should remain in the loop, and AI, makes all these benefits we're talking about. When you bring AI into it, it makes it possible at scale to do this. You can always do adaptive learning where you're tailoring it manually to each person one at a time, but to do this for a large organization, the AI is what really powers that. And this is an example. Again, I'll pull this from one of the things that Don showed. I love this view, so I recreated it here for you. This actually tells a lot of the adaptive story. You want to learn everything you need to get to the red dot, which is the completion at the end here. And, what do you uniquely need? The concepts that what this is showing is the things you need to learn are not just a big blob in a course. It's a journey through connected learning experiences. I may go forward, I may go back, I may need to spend very little time on one thing. Someone else may need to spend more time on that, and others may spend a lot more time. And the system detects what I need, what I know, and what I don't know, and how fast I progress, and to get me through it in that way that's best for me. So that's really these dots here actually represent a big concept that I'm going to talk about, where adaptive learning is really helping you break things into more concepts that then each person can learn more or less of based on what they need. And the system is really helping them to do that. So a big thing that is pointed out is adaptive learning is being able to balance between those dots that are, hey, I need to go faster here. I don't need to learn as much, or I really need more time here and I need to learn more so that I can become more competent in things I don't know. How can you know that learners know it and still move them through the content at a good pace? You do that by not wasting their time, like I said, on what they already know, and not wasting time on what's not even relevant to their job. So, when it doesn't feel like learning is created just for me, I tend to lose interest when it's the same for everyone and not really a direct match for my job. So if I see that learning is personalized to my job, it's guiding me to focus on what's most important, I'm engaged. And as part of adaptive learning, it's not just speeding you through, but it's gathering that evidence of what I know and what I don't know. That's an important part, that it's always gathering and understanding what I know. It's not just waiting to the end to give me an assessment. As I go, the adaptive learning is making sure that I've learned it in the right way. And so it's both this personalization to the learner's knowledge and context and making it faster, as well as helping them make sure they really know the material. And that's why this fits so well with critical job skills, critical skills training. When you really want to make sure they know it, adaptive learning doesn't just speed it up, it really will ensure that they know it. And that's what's critical. So, this all sounds good, but what does it really mean? How can you get started in a practical way so this doesn't become a mountain that you don't really want to climb? And the fact is, you can start small, but let's talk about sort of what's at the core of this. My suggestion is that you can experience the benefits of AI and adaptive learning by starting, picking almost like pick one size fits all course that you're dealing with today. It might be a compliance course that people take year after year, and you can make that adaptive. And if you look at the core of your learning, that's a big core. It covers most of what we do. 90% of what we do to train our employees is still e-learning and instructor-led training, some combination of those two. And these aren't going away anytime soon, but they're not built in their current form to really take your learning strategy forward. Are they sufficient, or is it time to really take a look at how to make them better? And this strategy to take them from one size fits all to adaptive is something that we'll talk through. But the future really is in breaking your larger concepts of these one size fits all courses into smaller, reusable modules. So let's talk about that. Really, this is a simple key to a step you can take one course and help you modernize it so that your learning really sets the table for AI powered adaptivity. And the key to that is to break this learning of these larger courses into their more atomic parts, break them into smaller chunks that are going to lead to a lot of good things. And this is an easy and empowering step to break down those skills and job needs into these knowledge bites. And there's a lot of talk about bite-sized learning. And so having a system that helps you do this is critical. When you've done this, though, the value is the learning becomes reusable and trackable. The learning bites can be put together in more ways. You create a library of skill modules, and these become your single source of truth, and they're not the same for everyone. They can be slightly different in each course. So they're easier to maintain, these smaller bites of learning. And this level of breaking down detail is what really powers the AI to let you get a clear picture of what the learner knows, doesn't know, and how ready they are to do their job. So let me show you how this works with the graphic here. So here's my representation of a bite-sized skill learning library. And by the way, most of this exists in your e-learning courses today. You just need a way to help, some people need a way to how to break this apart. But once you do this, it's all in the content that you already have. And each of these represents a bit of knowledge or a skill to be learned, and one or more pieces of content to use in learning that skill. And usually there's an assessment with each one of these. So think of it as almost like a mini course that says, here's a skill, here's something you need to learn, and here's how I'm going to make sure you know it. And that's really sort of this building block. And so when I need to create a new course, that may involve me piecing together just the modules that apply to what I want to teach. I might create some new bite-sized modules in this process too. Some of these things may be very close to what I need, and maybe I just need a slight variation on them. But the overall journey here of what I need to teach in this particular course is assembled by pulling these things together. And so when I take away the rest of those bite-sized modules that don't apply, I have the foundations for my course. But AI and adaptive learning can make it even better. So AI and automation come together on making personalization happen in real time. For example, only part of this course that I've assembled may apply to my job context. So the designer may construct it as one course and then construct it so that there's different contexts for different learners. And the AI can then say, this learner gets a tailored view just to their job. And then the AI is going to tailor the course even further. Because the system is tracking what I've already learned down to the bite-sized nodes, my prior training history that you see in the upper left here is taken into account. And so now some of those things that were part of this new course, I already know. And then there will also be things I know that the system may not actually be aware of initially. So for that, the system is going to quickly test my knowledge to determine what I know and give me credit for that as well. So I don't have to spend extra time on that. And so again, my prior knowledge, even though the system didn't know it, is going to be checked, and that's going to be taken into account. So now the amount of things I need to learn in this course are getting narrower. And what you're left with is this modern course, or a course just for me. And so it's crafted from these bite-sized skill modules. And because it's created in this way, I can quickly focus on those learning bits and get done more quickly. And I have access in the same sense to a powerful reference that I can refer back to as I need it with these bite-sized modules. So what you're left with, and this is a different view of now taking this blob, this concept of individual bite-sized nodes and seeing what it could materialize into. I can focus on, imagine these dots are the learning bits. These are and if you want to switch into the full screen mode, you may get a better view of this screen, and it's easy to switch back and forth with the little box in your upper right corner. But this modern course, the green is what the system has determined I either know already from previous learning or from things that I demonstrated in my initial knowledge check. And it said those things you don't have to do. And the other things that are still in a lighter color are where I need to now focus. So now this course that was built, I can certainly go into those things and relearn what I already know, but it's encouraging me to start somewhere else and to go further faster. And this is really a key part. So you don't need to change everything all at once when you're doing this. My suggestion is you can build one of your existing courses this way and start with a single course and come up with with the right technology to help you build this into an adaptive learning experience. So this approach allows you to also essentially build your learning and training content once. That's another important point. When you're building in this bite-sized way, you're building it once and you're applying it a number of ways. So whether you're focused on e-learning or you want to use concepts in a blended course with an instructor, or whether it's on-the-job training or learning pathways, this type of approach enables all these options, and AI can then apply to the way you want to teach it. And all these, multiple use cases of going through all these will be talked about here. But so think about, when you have broken your learning down into smaller bites, you can now build it once, and now you can reassemble it and say, I need really to have a live trainer involved, and they need to understand what the learner already knows, because that'll help them in the training. And all of that is possible with adaptive learning. So let's talk through that. This is really important, that you're enabling an AI-powered experience for all of your learning stakeholders. Adaptive learning is not just about the content and making it faster for the learner, but if you want to make it agile, then all aspects should be adaptable. So, the learner gets an experience that is tailored to them, as I've shown you, but trainers and coaches and instructors must also be able to adapt what they do, so that they know when they're teaching someone, when they're working with someone, where should I personalize my experience? So the learner gets that, the AI to speed them past what they know, and the trainer and instructor and coach can help them as well. Managers and leaders also get guidance. So they're getting guidance to make the best impact and best decisions. Where are my learners weakest? Where do I need to really focus to help make sure the business runs successfully? And then even for designers and administrators, helping them get insights into where to change and where to update and where to improve the courses. So the intelligence is all made possible, as I said, because of how you constructed the learning to begin with. And AI will just start to apply to these things, as we'll see. So I want to share potentially up to 4 different examples of what this could look like. So how does AI-powered adaptive learning get applied to a compliance use case, to on-the-job training, to longer form learning such as onboarding or upskilling, and even to pharmaceutical sales, let's say. So it's sales context where they need reinforcement. They need to constantly refresh on what's going on with the products they're selling. So these common themes across all these are saving time, are improving assurance that they know it, and it's making everyone more efficient, from L&D all the way to the business, to supporting these learners. So this is what we'll talk through, and let's start with our first example of compliance, in this case at a large pharmaceutical firm. So I want to give you this example, and I'm going to give you a little flavor of what it looks like, so you can kind of see how this can apply perhaps to you. So in this case, this company, in their example, they were really trying to understand how to go from their traditional way of learning. They really consolidated from a lot of different learning systems, and they're consolidating down to make sure that they focused on, the best LMS, the best LXP, the best content management system, and bring all those together. And there was still this need for more intelligence, more really adding this power of knowing what the learners know and making things more efficient in their system. So they brought in an adaptive learning approach to that. And so one of their use cases was to speed up their compliance training, but not just speed it up, but also to improve it so that they could start to understand where risks really were. They weren't satisfied any longer with just knowing that they checked the box and that people completed. They knew how important these procedures were to their business, and they wanted to start to understand where their risks were in this. So compliance training really was document based. It was, in pharmaceuticals, you may be familiar, there's a whole approach to learning standard operating procedures, and understanding what people were doing was difficult. They were just reading and signing off that they knew these procedures. There was really no visibility into competency and the risks that they were under. And in effect, it was repetitive. People were reading these every year. It was part of their requirement. They were checking the box, but it certainly became feeling like it was inefficient. People felt like they already knew it. So, and at the same time, they're managing frequent change. There were lots of changes to these procedures, and then they had to reread it. They had to send them out. it was inefficient on how they did that because people didn't know where the changes were. So the impact that they got from this was really saving time on compliance by detecting prior knowledge, giving people credit for what they already knew, but also understanding their gaps. So now they could understand that someone actually knew or didn't know this, and they could see on a global basis, on a regional basis, where were some of the things that weren't learning as well as they should, and then making all of their learning consistent by breaking things into this sort of bite-sized approach. So let me just give you a quick glimpse of what this could look like. I'm just showing you this as an example. Again, switching into full screen mode, I think will help you here to see some of this. So please do that if you can. But this is an idea of a learner embarking on a compliance course. This happens to be a course about cybersecurity. And in this case, there are 30 different bite-sized modules that they need to complete. And the first step is to perform what I'm calling a determined knowledge check. This is where the system takes the questions from the nodes and determines and assesses, what the best questions to ask are. So the need to build a knowledge check, the system handles that for you. It takes all the questions from the nodes that are built by you as the designer, and it assembles the best questions to say, if these questions are asked, I feel very confident that they know this material already. And the AI is working to constantly learn what are the best questions to ask. So then this knowledge check, which occurs at the beginning, is the first thing that each learner will do. So here's this zoomed in view of the learning map for this topic and the things that they're going to do. And each one of these are bite-sized topics. And they need, at the start, they would have to start at the beginning and do all of them. But instead of having to do that, the learner can now take this determined knowledge check. The author didn't have to write this. The system assembled it for them. So that's where some AI is taking place. What are the best questions out of all those that are about to be encountered so that I can give the learner the shortest assessment possible to make sure that they do or don't know this? So I first start by asking the learner how they feel they know it. I use that as input, but then some questions will come through. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is just an example of one question. And then when they're done, now the learner has already demonstrated that out of three of these topics, they already know well enough and don't need to start there. Two of them they know partially, and they may need to do an abbreviated version of that. And the rest they can start and work through. So now they've already saved time in this system, and they feel validated. They feel like the system is respecting them. So they're more engaged and they're more ready to complete things. So that is an example of adaptive learning right at the start at work using AI. And then when they get into the learning, I'll just share that now this is one of those examples of a small bite-sized node. They need to understand one piece of that knowledge. They'll work through a topic and there will be a quiz at the end. And at the end, in this case, so they're working through the material, very brief bite-sized learning, and then they'll get their quiz at the end. And then based on the responses, there might be an adaptation right at that point. If they're not getting it, if they're not doing well enough, the system can, in this case, they're getting some of these questions wrong. And now the system will say, oh, you know what, let me give you a little bit other material. And it can present alternate content that can guide the learner to a little bit more learning that can help cement this, to solidify this concept. So the way you've constructed this, the system can then say, I can tell that they're having a little trouble. Let me guide them to, and now you can see on the left side that they've actually expanded. Now the system is guiding them to do a little bit more. So again, adapting to your initial knowledge and then adapting as you go through. And this is helping both know that they've gotten enough practice to know it, but also getting them through it as fast as possible. And what this is doing, now I'm showing you just some of the little extra benefits they're getting. Now they're able to understand where people are really learning and where their challenges are. This is an example of one of their learning maps and how the concepts have been learned. And it's showing that they're starting to see some weakness in certain areas. So now they can actually focus on those areas. They can dig in deeper and understand what the challenges are, exactly where are the challenges, which part of the world, as well as which questions are giving the most challenging. Do I need to raise the bar on some of those things? So it's giving them a lot more information here's an example of a simple, by country, and they can break this down much further. But this is showing you now they can see that in this case, India, the UK are having a little bit of more of a challenge in one part of this learning, so they can actually go in and focus on those areas to remove risk from the company. So again, that's where you're getting a lot of benefit on the compliance side. And so I thought I'd pose this question as well. You don't have to think about what I just showed you. I'm just curious if you could improve something in your compliance training and it could magically be done tomorrow. What I showed you today, other things, other things that you think, oh, what would those be? What if I could do one great thing to my compliance training? Have I spurred any ideas, or are you involved in compliance?
You gave me
Curious.
you gave me an awful memory, TJ, which was I put it in the chat where literally paper stuff was sent around and you had to read it and initial it, and the initialing was the fact that okay, I've initialed it, therefore I must know everything that's in that paper. And some of these were like 8, 10, 12, 15 pages long, and they had to be done by a certain period of time, and it was like, so what happens? Everybody just initials them in the end, don't they? So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I know.
Well,
Let's have a look.
let's have
Look
a
at some of
look.
the comments. Moving from learning
Michelle.
to real performance and have that validated, Michelle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I understand that one. Changing the opinion, Steph. What, the
Yeah,
opinion of compliance
opinion of
training? Is that
compliance.
what it
Yeah,
is? Yeah,
that's
not
what
so much.
some are trying to do.
Yeah,
Change
perception
the
of compliance,
perception.
says Jonathan. Yeah, what do you think to that, TJ?
Agreed. Yeah, I think there's ways to do that. We've had people talk about if I could give someone something fresh and new every year that's almost like ripped from the headlines. Here's something new. Here's a policy you learned last year. Next year, though, boy, this is a new way to think about it. It's take AI and all the issues with compliance around new things that are happening in the world, deep fakes in technology, and how does that apply to this policy that we have, and sort of giving people that fresh view every year
Yeah,
makes people feel like, hey, this is interesting. It's something new. So yeah, and make it tailored to their job.
absolutely. Ewan's mentioned one, so that putting a book together, and there's a chapter talks about compliance and courses and so on, and exactly that, making sure people have learnt the training rather than just memorize the answers. And I've got a story that relates to that as well. So
Yeah,
there's a league table on people being able to get through the training as quickly as possible. Embedding rather than playing lip service, says Becky. I think that's a really interesting one. What do you think to that one, TJ? Actually,
yeah.
embedding it.
Yeah, embedding it in their day to day or in throughout. I also like the idea of having what they've learned as a resource that they can go back to, so that it's not just on the
Yeah,
shelf and forgotten. But if you make it real in their job and make it tailored to this is why it's important to your job, a little different from the other person. I
yeah,
think helps.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
updating is
science
another one.
update.
Right? Yeah, they change so often. So how do you break it down? And that's something that we'll see or I may not show that example, but the one you've created it this way, now you can make a quick change. The system can alert everyone who needs with just that change, almost like a red line contract. Look, this is new. This is different. And then next time the new people who learn it will get the change, but the people who learned it last time will just see that small change and you'll be able
Yeah,
to know that they learned it. So it's
yeah.
interesting. Great.
Excellent. We're going to close that window down. We've got 20 minutes left, and
Yeah.
otherwise we'll be talking about these things for ages.
Yes.
Let's come back to here.
So
There we
yes.
go.
So my second story here is a little shorter. It's about another world-class organization where their frontline workers are literally the face of the company. This is very high standards and training. Employees are carefully trained to meet those standards. Um, And the challenge that they were facing is that their training was becoming inefficient because of their growth. So you can envision paper-based training for this world-class organization, binders, where they needed to teach people. And it was very critical that they all did the job just the right way, and making sure that really 100,000 employees were trained for 500 different jobs, but they might each have to do 2 or 3 of them. But they're very similar jobs that might have some overlap. So how would you personalize training to make it faster and less repetitive, but also allow trainers to continue to do their job, because they had this legacy of it's not just sit down and do learning. They needed to show, this is like operating large machinery. They needed to show someone what to do. So their preferred mode of training was right in the field with the machinery, with the equipment. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. But the solution was to really create a structured on-the-job training program that tracked skills and made cross-training far more efficient. So updates used to require people, when things changed, they had to come in and sit down and go through with the trainer very detailed what changed, and they had to almost like relearn everything. And now they're able to take very targeted approach to, here's what you've learned, here's what's new. Like we said, those updates can be pinpointed. So the result is that they've cut maintenance in half. They're saving 10% on their overall training budget just with improved how they update training. And ultimately, though, they know that everyone is properly trained or they won't be scheduled to work. The way they've been able to measure and know what skills people have learned and where they are now out of compliance, they know that this person should not be scheduled, and it hooks into their scheduling program. So they know this person needs more training before I can actually let them do this job. It's really protecting them. So here, let me show you just a quick what this means. Again, it's adaptive learning, but now it's a trainer who's looking at what the learner knows. They're about to train them, and they're getting a picture of how I can help you better, what you already know because you've learned this somewhere else. As you can see, this is a theme park. You might understand who this might be about, but they're actually, again, if you zoom in full screen, you'll see this a little better. You've got a trainer now who's using their interface to say, okay, I've got to train these 3 people. And look, Aaron already has some experience in what I'm about to teach today. And so as you go through this and I take you through, again, there's a set of things they need to teach. The trainer has this. And when I get with Aaron and I'm about to teach him one of these topics, let's talk about personal and guest safety, where Aaron already has experience. Now my interface as a trainer is going to show me what Aaron needs to learn. And again, this is because on a different topic where Aaron learned this same thing, it was very similar at this other attraction that Aaron had to learn how to do. And now he can do this here, but he doesn't have to redo a lot of these things. It's all very similar, except for when it comes to this attraction, there's a slightly different way I need him to do it on these 2 topics. So now the adaptivity is saying, okay, Aaron's got to learn this new thing. I'm going to just teach him these 2. Also, if I need someone on a different job, and I can look at my list and say, who's closest to learning this? If I needed someone to learn this job, I could look and see Aaron already knows most of this. It'll be fastest for him to learn. And now I can use that in my skill building. So again, the trainer has the experience now. They know how to teach someone. They actually have this ability to review one by one how people are doing. And the fact is, when they grade someone, the adaptivity now says, oh, Aaron didn't do that well enough. I'm going to guide Aaron back where to learn. So now, instead of the trainer needing to know exactly where Aaron needs to go back, he can just grade Aaron, understand where Aaron is still weak, and now the system will guide Aaron back to refresh and update what he knows. So again, here's my trainer orientation. I've got 3 trainers, and I can see that I'm still working, and on my 3rd trainer now on the right, there's still some weaknesses here. I need to go in and work more with them. It's really helping me understand as a trainer what to do. So this concept of on-the-job training is a unique one. And like I said, from a manager's perspective, they now get a lot more input. They get insight. Who knows what? Do I have enough people ready to operate this part of my business? Do I need to get more people over there? Are there people working today? Are there people that are close to this job that I need to bring on and train them quickly? So it's giving them a lot more insight to manage risk around this as well. So quick question. We won't spend a lot of time, but I'm curious, is on-the-job training something that you're dealing with? Is this concept of structuring it in this formal way? Do you deal with this, or is this left to the business? Where does on-the-job training fall in your world?
Really interesting to hear people's answers to this one, because it seems to be detached from a lot of learning activity.
Yeah,
particularly.
and they were so central to this example. So I mean, that's like what they do, and so they needed this idea. So, but yeah, a lot of times it's left.
Rose, various programs for different levels of solicitor. Socrates, managing a training platform for teachers. So these things happening on the job I'm interested, Rose, if so it's on the job, people doing that with them. Is it recorded, referenced anywhere at all? How that works? Encourage and provide guidance as a COE, I'm assuming Centre of Excellence 7, baked in 70-20-10 that we hear about. Increasing relevant due to DAPs and learning in the flow of work. Absolutely, yeah. Those digital assistants, and the flow of work in itself. Not seeing that on the. I'm seeing it in the learning and development side. I'm not seeing it so much in the technology side. I mean, we've seen Copilot, obviously the Microsoft one, but it's different automations aren't necessarily the same. And hybrid learning, asynchronous, document based and face to face, says Socrates as well. What do you think,
Yeah,
TJ?
this is where, a lot of training departments will get involved certainly, and you have somewhat of separation between what L&D does and a little bit on the training side, and certainly though the ability to build something and have that knowledge be used in e-learning and also give the trainer insight and give them the ability to now teach it consistently is a huge value. But having them be able to say, "Oh, you didn't know this well enough," and guide the learner back to where in the e-learning, that all that is part of what adaptive learning is doing for them. So it's I don't think it takes a lot
Excellent.
more effort this way, but it's interesting. Good.
Useful stuff. I'm going to close that window down. Everybody who's typing. Oh, Steve got in there very quickly, and Fiona as well. Face to face and defined learning academies and personalized learning pathways. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Excellent. Right. Let's put it
Very
back into
good.
the normal view. Here we go. 15 minutes to go.
Yeah. This example is using adaptive learning for a full onboarding program. So again, critical skills to train someone to be, in this case, a patient care tech. It's literally, I'll say it, it's truly a life and death position. These are almost like not the most experienced people that you can almost train anyone to do it. But if you don't train them well, this is very dangerous for the person who's on the other side of the in this case kidney dialysis equipment. So this company has thousands of new hires a year. These roles are high risk. They're helping patients with procedures that require medical equipment, and big things are at stake. And for this process, to date, it was heavily based on traditional on-the-job training. Everyone at the site was doing it a little differently. There were sites all around the country in the U.S., but also in the world. And these preceptors, as they're called at each site, would have the new hires follow along, observe. So very traditional on-the-job training. In this case, the challenges were that the new hires and others may come in with vastly different levels of prior knowledge. And so adjusting that training was one challenge, but even more so was that it was inconsistent, that each preceptor did it differently. And ultimately the workload was getting to be too much. The preceptors had their day jobs. And so how could they balance and give someone e-learning and then give the preceptor enough guidance to know when you're ready to train them, here's what you should train them on. And so that consistency was important. And so what they did was rethink their training and bring in this case, an adaptive learning system like Realize It to connect that formal e-learning to a structured on-the-job training approach. And so now the learners, and this is a longer journey, it takes 11 weeks, but they can manage their own path. They don't have to just follow someone around. They can learn. And then when they're ready to get to the point where they need someone to learn from, those preceptors know where to help them. So let's take a quick look at what this could look like. So again, go into full screen mode here. You'll see someone coming in onboarding. They're going to have multiple, what I'm calling pathways here, longer form learning. In this case, they have some orientation and actual job skills training and even compliance all in one. And so I'm going to take you into this pathway on job skills training and this idea that within there may be 4 different modules. One of them being, I'm going to show you vital signs training. And in this case, you see these bite-sized things where now the learner can say, I can take control of my pathway. I need to learn how to do blood pressure, how to take blood pressure. There's some self-learning I'm going to do. Then I'm going to go shoulder to shoulder. I'm going to work one-on-one and have someone show me that. And then I'm actually going to do a return demonstration. I'm going to give a demonstration back to someone. And these bite-sized things can occur at different points in time. And I know I need to get all these completed to be ready for the job. So it's giving me the chance to guide and learn all of these things. And now again, when the assessor gets in there, So again, here's the e-learning. They're going to do some things on their own. They're really going to be able to go at their own pace to a certain extent. Then they're going to actually say, now you're going to do one-on-one training. It's going to talk about what you're going to do there. It's going to give you guidance. The trainer on the other side is going to have similar content. They're, okay, it's time to work with this person. And they're going to have a very well-guided approach. It's not just randomly, let's figure out how I do blood pressure. It's going to show them exactly how to teach someone that in a very simple way. And then the trainer is going to have much more insight. They're going to know, here's all the people I need to train. And where are they struggling? So in this case, I'm looking at my list as a trainer, and I'm about to train Zanira. And Zanira has got to work on this. She's already done the skill evaluation once. You see it in red down here. And now I'm going to take her through it again and try and improve her on that. And so again, the trainer doesn't need to know what exactly to teach the learner out in the past or where to send them back. They just have their rubric. They have a grading system that says, here's what you need to have them do. Make sure they do this. Take them through this step. See how they, and then if they're doing it well, they'll get through it. If they aren't, it will guide the learner back to where to readdress. So again, trainer has this idea of, I can just do my job quickly, help them know exactly what to do. And however I grade them, it's going to guide the learner back where to go. The other part that AI is doing here is it's bringing this forward to them. It's helping this trainer or this preceptor say, where are there people that are struggling? Let me dig into that. Where are there topics that the group needs some help on? So again, not having to look every day and figure out in detail, what should I do? It's bringing to my attention in one simple place. Where should I pay attention? Who do I need to help today? What do I need to help them with? And guide them through that. So it's always looking for where the challenges are. And that's something that you'll see in this system. So quickly, and we're almost out of time here. Are learning pathways something you're working with? What are you doing with learning pathways as opposed to, say, single courses? Are you doing onboarding? Are you doing upskilling? And does it take more learning? And are you blending that? You know, what have you done in your world? Curious to hear about that.
Thanks, TJ. I'm surprised for some reason all of the chat from the previous question has come up here as well. But yeah, learning pathways. I'm seeing more and more of. We've got a few people typing. How are you using learning type? How are you using learning pathways, and what types have you implemented? Cyan, all of the training via pathways.
Yeah.
Try and
Good.
keep each course to 5 minutes. Super bite-sized and easy to revisit at a later date. I like that.
Yeah.
Be interested to know more about that, Cyan.
That's what we're talking about. You're on the right path there.
Yeah. Specific topics as
Socrates, standard operating procedure is the best use case. Yeah. If you can break it down and make it so that then people can go back instead of having this huge document, now they've got a bite-sized approach to re-understanding what they need at the point in time, sort of in the flow of work. It's great.
I like I like Rose's comment as well. Just to finally, just the last one I'll make a comment on. We don't have pathways of learning within programs. I think that's interesting. It's the shift from, oh, you do this, do this, but actually wider than that. And I think it's widening that pathway, I think, isn't it, TJ?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. Excellent stuff. Thank you all.
All right. Yes, thank you. So we're right at the end here. I'm just going to show you this quick example, and then we'll have 1 or 2 minutes for questions if there are any others. But reinforcement. So this is the idea of, you've built all this training. Now the AI can say, what do you need to know that you maybe didn't know as well? So in this case, this pharma sales group said, I want to reinforce that training, and everything I'm doing is one size fits all. I want it to be tailored to each person. I don't want the same questions to go to everyone in the group. I want them to get where they're weakest. So how can I make sure that happens? So in this case, and I'll give you this example again, if you go to full screen, you see 2 people with their recommended actions. They're going to get prompted every day to say, or maybe once a week, here's some things you can reinforce on. In this case, you have Stefan on one side and Sophia on the other. And what you'll see is they open up their learning, and this is just showing you how one is weak in one area, one is in another. So they're both getting reinforcement, but it's going to be based on the knowledge profile that the AI knows about them. In this topic, Stefan is weaker in one area and Sophia in another. And so just again, you'll see, this is just showing you that example side by side. The questions they're going to get are going to be tailored to them. And when they answer these questions, it's going to not only see if they know it, but it actually can present them with remediation right away. So in this case, I'll zoom in on Stefan. He'll do his question. If he gets it wrong, because of the way this training is built, it can take him right back to that topic to refresh on it. And not only does that, it actually now builds up his knowledge profile for next time. So after he's answered this question, before, he actually has gotten weaker. Now the system knows he struggled here. It'll use this information going forward to say, I still need Stefan to refresh. He did fine today. He answered it, or he got it wrong. He refreshed on it, which is good. But I'm going to use that in my knowledge bank for the future to know that I should work with Stefan more on that. So you can see that before and after his grading is going down. Again, the knowledge profile of this bite-sized learning is all tracked and is very important in this. So I think space practice, we can open it up to this, but are you doing this? We might skip over this one, Andrew, and just kind of go to general question and answer, I guess, at this point, because I think we're almost at the end of the time here. What do you think?
I would agree. I think we do.
So again, happy to answer more questions, happy to reconnect. Hopefully you saw a little bit of the business alignment here and the L&D efficiency as the two themes. All the things that I talked about, how do you speed up learning? How do you know that they know? How do you, this idea of breaking things down, it's helping you understand where the challenges are. It's helping you even reduce risk because now you know where the weaknesses are and you can get in and fix those. You can give more role specific content. I didn't even show that here, but the ability to adapt to a certain person's job and make the same one piece of training easily adapt to one role versus another is another piece of this that I didn't even get to show. And that continuous learning. So when you build it and then they need to be refreshed on it, it's all taken from the same pool of learning and it's taken from the knowledge profile that's there. So you are constantly going to be up to date on what's most important. And again, it's helping you build it more efficiently because it's helping you structure it that way. It's helping you even generate content, which I didn't even show you today, but the ability to use Gen AI on top of this to say, I need more questions here and have it all integrated. That's another area I can show you, which I decided not to show you today because we're all doing that, but it's something that's built into this. And just that whole idea of making it bite-sized. So you're not only improving your job as L&D, you're giving all the stakeholders, you're giving the supporting roles the ability to learn and know what to do their job better. And we saw some of that. So hopefully this gives you an idea of starting small and becoming AI powered with adaptive learning very quickly in a structured way.
Awesome stuff. You are pretty much out of time. We've got some links. There's some links that you can see on the slides here now. Learning more about how AI can improve learning benefits. That's an ebook. There is also learning more about Realize It as well. I've nearly came up with the German pronunciation. Yeah, with videos as well, and you'll find these links at the end here as well, which I will now put us into the mood for. There we go. So the ebook and the Realize It Resource Center. There was a couple of questions that I wanted to pick up. The first one was from Socrates earlier on in the session, and I think it's a really good question that I think we need to look at, TJ. So prior knowledge, confirming prior knowledge within AI or by AI is really difficult. It's too broad and tacit and so on for systems to be able to do that. How do we overcome that? How do we work with and around that challenge, TJ?
Yeah, I can tell you what we have done and what the system in a sense can do for you. So certainly prior knowledge on a huge scale is a big topic, but when it's focused on, okay, do you know this or not? The giving this, the questions that you build in are what are intended to test the knowledge. One, you build enough questions in using Gen AI to say, I'm not just going to ask 2 or 3 questions. I'm going to give the system 10 questions to work with. The system can over time determine what are the best questions that really proved that when they answered it this way, they knew the whole topic. And so the AI is going to constantly be learning based on the questions that are there. And it's going to be targeted to what you know. So now it knows, here are all the questions that you've created or a Gen AI has created for this topic. It's learning what the most effective ones are, and then it's tailoring it so that I'm not asking you all your prior knowledge. I'm asking for this topic. Which of these do you know? And so then it can say, with a high degree of confidence that you know it, it's going to constantly recalibrate that as well as you go through. It might ask you some additional questions as you go through to space that repetition. So did you really know it? Oh, I thought you knew it. Maybe I'm going to take you back. So again, yes, not a perfect science, like 100% guarantee, but it's a very solid guarantee that it's known. So that's one of the techniques. Happy to talk more about that too.
Excellent. And it will have to be another time, unfortunately, TJ. We are over time now. We've come up to filling our time. So I can't get to your question, Desislava or Clive either. Please feel free to connect with TJ. You can see his contact details there for LinkedIn on the left-hand side as well. And make sure that you link to that Realize It Resource Center and also to the ebook as well. Ebook's very interesting. Recommended. Thank you, everybody, for your engagement this morning. Like I always say, these sessions only work when we have people engaging with us. It makes the speaker's job so much easier. Having said that, this is a complicated topic. I think TJ did a very good job with it, so well done. Thank you, everybody. We're back in a couple of weeks' time. So brilliant to spend time with you again, and I will see you all again in another couple of weeks. So thanks, everybody, and speak to you all soon.
Thank you, everyone.